Hello! We are the Academic Support Services team in the Learning Center. The Learning Center at UNT is here to support you with all your academic needs, with multiple workshops and support services, like academic coaching, supplemental instruction, and tutoring. In this presentation, you will get a taste of one of our academic support services as we explore critical thinking skills. Let's get started. A 2013 study found that 93% of employers agree that a demonstrated capacity to think critically, communicate clearly, and solve complex problems is more important than a candidate's undergraduate major. This makes critical thinking a skill that you need to start developing right away, so you are an outstanding candidate when you graduate. Let's get into some of the components of critical thinking. Three components of critical thinking are analysis, evaluation, and metacognition. Analysis and evaluation are often used interchangeably, but these terms aren't actually the same thing. Analysis is picking out relevant details and conclusions that you've already drawn, while evaluation is an educated opinion of the facts presented and your interpretation of their greater meaning. We also want to take advantage of metacognition, the intentional awareness of understanding one's own thought processes. And why is this important? This is especially important for our ability to grow, but we can also immediately see it applied to the student perspective. Students who intentionally think about how they will study before preparing for an exam outperform those who just dive right in. Let's get into some of those components of metacognition. Three components of metacognition are analysis, evaluation, and metacognition. Let's get into some of the components of metacognition. Three components of metacognition are knowledge, appraisal, and regulation. There are three main components to metacognition: knowledge, appraisal, and regulation. Knowledge refers to understanding and having a toolkit for learning, problem solving, thinking, and reasoning strategies, as well as metacognitive strategies. We should also be able to assist the difficulty of a task and have a general awareness of our own personal strengths and weaknesses. Regarding appraisal, we need to be able to appraise our own capabilities and be able to attend to, monitor, and evaluate our effort and recognize where there needs to expand and where we need to develop new skills. We also need to regulate ourselves by deliberately planning how much to change anticipated outcomes when we need to. Adapt to the increased demands or expectations, shift efforts to correct errors, and continually update our own knowledge base. All of this ultimately comes down to a need for intentional action and focusing on ourselves as thinkers and producers. Critical thinking is just as much about how we work with a team as our own abilities. It's important to be able to effectively communicate on a team, as prior knowledge is a big part of effective decision making, and someone else's perspective could better enable you to make a wiser choice. Our ability to effectively communicate can determine our role in a process. Are we a leader or someone whose perspective isn't taken into account? You may or may not have heard of Bloom's taxonomy before. Bloom's taxonomy is a model of thinking hierarchy established at Vanderbilt University. We all have the capacity to fall into any of these categories, but the idea is to achieve the highest order of thinking, creation, as often as possible. The learning process begins with remembering, when we can recall facts and basic concepts. Then we can move on to understanding, then into applying by using information in new situations. And after that, we want to analyze something by drawing connections before evaluating with our own stance. And finally, we can create by producing a new original work. Remembering, understanding, and applying are generally considered lower order thinking skills on the Bloom's taxonomy continuum, while analyzing, evaluation, and creating are considered higher order thinking. A huge amount of our learning, especially when we're younger, is on the lower end of the spectrum, and that's okay. We can't get to the more difficult thinking without going through those earlier stages. So that also makes it okay that if you'll find yourself really starting from scratch in some of your classes, just make sure you do a lot of the lower order thinking so you can get into the hotter aspects of thought. It's all about progress. Next, we'll discuss cognitive biases. A cognitive bias is an information filter in which objective information flows in and is transformed as it passes through the filter. Here are a few types of cognitive biases. There are also things we need to consider when thinking critically. Keep these biases in mind when you're making judgments to ensure that you have the full picture. The halo effect occurs when our perception of someone is positively influenced by our opinion of their other traits. One example of this is the attractiveness stereotype, which is the tendency to assign positive qualities and traits to people who are physically attractive. The framing effect is when information is presented or framed in a more favorable light to influence your opinion. An example of this would be if you're looking for a disinfectant and you choose a product that says it will kill 95% of all germs, instead of one that says that 5% of germs will survive. The availability bias is something that we experience often. This happens when we think things that have happened recently or stand out in our minds are more likely to happen again. For example, you might be less likely to swim in the ocean after hearing news of a shark attack, even though shark attacks happen fairly infrequently. You can learn more about critical thinking skills on our website. Thank you for watching, and make sure to check out our website at learningcenter.unt.edu for more information, and follow us on social media to get the latest updates. Again, welcome to UNT and go Mean Green!